it would be really great if for men we created a you too movement. Oh, you too have these vulnerabilities? Or you too have fears about you too? Because one
Mm,
of the big problems
mm,
is that we tend to compare our insides to our perception of other people's outsides. And when other people, guys, have learned to hide their vulnerabilities and be nicely armored and inside can feel like a wreck, it's a very bad comparison. And when people are not talking about it, there's a real problem. I think about the word intimacy, the phonetic of it, intimacy. I know a lot of times people think about intimacy as sexuality per se. I think you can be sexual without being intimate. You can be intimate without being sexual. It's great when it's both, but that's not exactly what this panel is about. That's another story. That's Andrew's dating book. So we're really looking at intimacy as intimacy and to see into beauty, warts, and all. And I think just getting back to what you were saying, Chris Willard, the territory of rupture and repair is just absolutely enormous, in terms of relationships, all relationships of different kinds. Because we all screw up, we all make mistakes, and even unwittingly stepping on somebody else's toes. And if we understand that there was an ouch for them, they can go, oh, okay, did I intend to do that? That becomes a courageous act of self-connectivity, like to be aware of even the parts, shadowy parts of oneself that maybe are not so pro-social. But that's part of how we come into awareness and how we come into greater, kind of self-evolution. And really it takes courage to admit you're wrong. Now, it doesn't take courage to admit you're wrong if that's all you do, right? And I think one of the things that what we have to really look at we're looking at guys, it has to do with context. And I don't, one of the things that is kind of frustrating to me, not kind of, it is frustrating to me when I hear like competition is bad or you should be vulnerable. You should well, it's not good to be vulnerable when you're in a competitive arena. It's like when you're playing a sport and what you're doing is you're looking at your opponent's vulnerability so you can exploit them, so you can win. I mean, it's not that complicated, right? In most areas of life, if you apply that same standard, which a lot of guys do, not that women don't do it, but guys tend to do it more. If you apply that same standard, what did she say? That I can pounce on and win. Maybe you'll win the argument, but if you're in war, you're lost and you will
mm.
lose. And so having the awareness about what is the context I'm in right now, and is that an appropriate mindset to bring into this context? So one of the big issues is that I think guys in general learn a certain kind of operating system.
That's right.
And by the very nature of an operating system, it has certain operations that it can do. But if those operations are not in that operating system, it can't do them, period. And I tend to look at the human mind and how the brain forms into the mind in terms of an operating system. It may not be a perfect analogy, but thinking about the territory of psychological flexibility, which to me is basically expanding that operating system to be able to meet different contexts. And so I'm curious, when you think about psychological flexibility, what are ways that we can help younger guys kind of develop a certain kind of ability to, I can be this way in this situation, I can be that way in a different, like those are all part of yourself. It's not like you have to be this one uniform, I am always tough, I am always in control. Sometimes that's cool and it's appropriate for the context. Sometimes it gets in the way. How do you convey these types of messages to young guys? Chris Grimmer.
There you go.
Yeah, I think one way of looking at the question is what keeps us rigid? What contracts our view? What shrinks our context? And inevitably, it's when we feel under it, when our sense of self is under attack, That's when we
Yes.
become a small little ball, and that's known as shame. Shame is a self-attack. So I think, and the problem with shame is that it's everywhere, and it's mostly unconscious because we kind of check out when there's shame. So a preliminary way, I think, of answering the question is to become more aware of shame, to know when our children feel shame, to know when we feel shame, to recognize shame, and to do our best to be present with somebody, including ourselves, in the midst of shame. And then I think we naturally become more flexible. Our field of perception naturally expands.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go. Thank you. That was very good. And I'm gonna go to much broader to systemic. So if we are aiming for psychological flexibility and the ability to roll with wildly different circumstances, then I think that we need to be helping all young people learn kind of critical perspective on I'm in a big, huge, let's go to video games. I'm in a big, huge video game. There are multiple systems at work impacting me. And this is going to look different for people in different skins, in different nations, in different ethnicities, in different classes, in different structures. What are all of the different systems that are impacting me? Can I analyze them critically? And can I get grounded in a sense of self compassion so that I don't feel like I have to be this, I have to be that, I have to be that? Here's all these things impacting me. How am I choosing my path forward through this incredibly complex and frightening game, precarious game?
A game called life, right?
Mm.
I mean, I think you well put. I think you could apply that same question to looking at other people, as well for all of us.
Them
But
too.
certainly,
Yes.
I know for me, like I don't want to assume that I know what somebody else's experience is like. I don't. I have my own particular experience. I'm a guy, a Jewish guy from New Jersey. Fortunately, I
Yes.
escaped there. Sorry for you people living in New Jersey a long time ago. But I think that like when I hear somebody say like to a black guy, like, "Oh, I know what it's like." I'm going, "No, you don't. You have no clue. You might think you know what it's like, but you don't know what it's like." And so I think that there's a way that curiosity and openness is directly related to our ability to connect with ourselves and connect to other people. What is it like? What is it actually like to be you? What is that like?